Darren, I've got travel plans in the process of being booked for next football season. I know we're not in football season, we're in basketball
That's
season.
right.
Coastal Carolina, believe it or not, I've never been to a game there. Have you?
No, I have not.
They announced today free concessions at all home football games.
Everything is free?
Hot dogs, nachos, popcorn, sodas. No, alcohol is not free, of course.
Okay.
And I don't know if
All
they're
right,
serving
right.
Carolina games, but and unlimited visits. You can get 4 items each time you go to the concession stand, but you can go unlimited times during the game.
Yeah. I think you and I could book that travel, get to that game. Mike can make them reverse their decision. I'm just.
Are you thinking back to the college days of hanging out at the all-you-can-eat buffets and getting
oh,
2 meals out of one visit?
absolutely. Before I ended up in Middle Tennessee, at school in Middle Tennessee, I went to school in West Tennessee for 1 year, and there was a restaurant that had Tuesday nights. This will tell my age. $6.99 all you can eat seafood buffet. And there was a group of 10 of us guys that went there every Tuesday night, and you could just see the people just go, oh, we're going to have to do something. When we would walk in the door,
Wow.
we did some damage. We probably, there are kids somewhere throughout this country that were from shrimping families that went to college strictly because of those Tuesday nights. I guarantee it.
And on those nights when you wonder if you made a difference in the world, Darren, remember that.
See, there you go. There's a shrimper somewhere that sent his kid to college.
Well, as much as I love talking about buffets and football, it
Oh
is
yeah.
still basketball season where we got the tournament going on, and it's kind of like singing during communion on Sunday morning. I don't know how I feel about it, so I'm not sure I want to mix two sports at one time here. So let's just talk
I
about
can't do
the
it.
NCAA tournament. But before you do that, please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that so very much if you'll hit that subscribe button for us. Now, let's go around the league before we get into the men's tournament and talk about some things that are going on in college basketball. Some big news out of Norman, Oklahoma today, Darren. Trey
Yeah.
Young, great player for OU, plays for the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA, was named today as the assistant general manager. Just so happens on the same day he's named to this position, he makes a $1 million donation to the program.
Ta-da!
Hey,
There you go,
I've got no
man.
stone to throw.
Nah, and man, how much fun was he to watch when he was at Oklahoma?
Mhm.
I mean, they weren't even an SEC school at that time, but you knew exactly who he was and the impact he was making. He was so much fun to watch.
Is this something you think we're going to see more of? Because I was thinking of Stanford, Andrew Luck,
Mm-hmm.
bringing him into a position like that, and
Yep.
today it was announced that Frank Reich is going to
Yeah.
coach for 1 year only is the agreement. Are we going to see more former athletes coming back to their schools in positions like these in this era of NIL?
I think you definitely will, and I think it's to some extent it's something that schools were already doing. I think it's just going to be structured different and get much more attention because of NIL, and it's a new. I mean, it's basically a new position. Yeah, I think that's part of what's getting it's kind of a big deal anytime a school names a general manager of basketball or a general manager of football because it's just something we've never seen. It's specific to this era, and so when you add a very notable alumni, I think that's just going to make it an even bigger headline. And you know the way all athletics, all sports work. If one team does it and it seems to go well, then we're all going to do it. So we'll start. I think we'll start to see it even more because people want to win. If it looks like something that'll help you win, yeah, we're in. We'll do it.
Yeah, certainly athletes who leave their schools and do well at the next level have a certain amount of credibility that they
Absolutely.
bring with them. Also, an appeal to younger athletes who I want to be where that athlete is, and they made it there, so I'm going to listen to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of some incredible athletes, let's talk about the women's Final Four, which is not completely set. We have
Yeah.
half the teams in there. South Carolina punched its ticket again
Yeah. a,
with
a tough a tough punch. The card kind of held on for it didn't. It wasn't just an easy punch through, but it was a fun game to watch. But they did. They pulled it through and did what they needed to do.
a 4-game win against Duke. The game before that, it was a 4-game win, or not 4-game, 4-point
4
win.
point.
What I'm trying to say. So South Carolina has not cruised through
Yeah,
the
that's
NCAA
exactly
tournament
right.
like they typically have.
Hmm.
Joining them in the Final Four is UCLA, which knocked off LSU in a hard fought game.
Yeah.
Uh, I've got my opinions about that, but it is what it is.
There were
As
some tough
Scott,
moments.
Scott Rabelais from the Baton Rouge Advocate said so well, you never, ever, ever put the game into the hands of officials.
Absolutely. No matter the sport, no matter the circumstance, the game
Take,
should never be in the hands of the officials.
take care of your business.
Ever. Yep.
So, so somewhat disappointing. LSU was a 3 seed. UCLA was the number 1 overall seed. They were expected to be there, the first Final Four ever for them.
Hmm.
And we're waiting on who is going to fill out this bracket. Tonight, as we're recording, Texas and TCU are playing. It's halftime. Texas is up 23-21, a very close game. So we can't call that, unfortunately. We can't say
No.
Texas is up by 20. They're going to be in the Final Four. That's still to be decided. After the Texas TCU game, we have UConn versus Southern Cal, which lost its best player
Yeah.
to
That's a tough spot for them. Yeah.
ACL. You hate to see
Yeah.
that. Hate
Absolutely.
that. Um, so anyway, that's where the women's Final Four stands as of recording. If we get a notification before we're done tonight, we will give you an update on that Texas TCU score. We're watching that because Texas would be the second SEC team to
Yep.
make the Final Four. But it's been
And,
a great women's tournament.
absolutely. And that's exactly what I was about to say. Truthfully, when you look at UCLA and South Carolina already being in, and you look at the 4 teams that are vying for those final 2 spots, it's going to be some quality basketball. No matter what those matchups end up being, it's going to be some good quality basketball that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it.
Yep.
Some news that came out today that was a little shocking to LSU fans. Samaya Smith, a forward who's played 3 years at LSU's, had a terrific tournament this year, declared that she's entering the transfer portal. This is the
Yeah.
day and age that we live in, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
LSU's got quite a stockpile of players coming in, but still, she's fun to watch. Great player, hard worker. We're gonna miss her, but she
Hmm.
will land somewhere, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll be successful next
And
year.
we'll absolutely.
It's kind of like watching Haley Van Lith this year.
Yep. At TCU.
I
Yep.
hate that it didn't work out at LSU. I really like her game, and it just didn't for whatever reason. But
Yep.
I'm happy to see her doing so well at TCU this year, and so I'll feel the same way about Samaya Smith wherever she lands. If you hate to see players leave, but you still find a way to support them.
Yeah, and it's hard, and it makes it hard for teams to build depth. I think that's going to be the struggle that we see more and more. But you connect with, especially those players that have given 2, 3 years and they move on for that final year of eligibility. You want to see them do well. You want to see them have maybe that real kind of breakout year that maybe they haven't had yet, or maybe they're looking for a different level, whatever it is. So, best of luck. Hard to see, but best of luck.
And a big question that's up in the air right now is Flau'jae Johnson. What will
Yeah,
she do? They're already going to lose Anisha Morrow to graduation, so
yeah.
that's one starter, one of the big three.
Hmm.
Is Johnson? Is she going to leave to go to the WNBA? What is she going to
Yeah,
do? Now they're losing Samaya Smith, so it's going to be. I think it could very well end up being Michaela Williams' team next year, going
yeah.
into her junior season.
Absolutely,
And of course,
absolutely.
Kim Mulkey at the helm. Another great job by Kim Mulkey.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's it.
I agree with everything you said, man. You nailed it.
Also, we want to mention that Tennessee today, I think it's official, has they were talking about it, but I believe they have extended Kim Caldwell's contract.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
had a very successful first year in Knoxville, and they're holding on to her. So good
Mhm.
news for Caldwell and the Tennessee Lady Vols.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that was a hire. We spent a lot of time talking about that before it happened and after it happened. I think pretty early on, just because of what she'd done and how quickly she'd done it in her previous stop. I think most of the Tennessee, the Vol Nation was on board, but I don't think she did anything but just pull more people on board throughout the process of this season. The way they looked, the way they played, ended up in the tournament. I don't think that's a surprising turnaround to anybody that they went ahead and kind of tried to lock her up for a little bit longer because things sure seem to be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. Things are
Yeah,
looking up in Knoxville.
yeah,
Absolutely. So
definitely.
let's talk about a little bit about the men's game as the Final Four is set. And before we get to that, Darren, well, first of all, let's mention who's in the Final Four. I think
Yep.
everyone already knows this. Houston and Duke will play each other, and Florida and Auburn will
Yep.
face off. So 2 SEC teams made the Final Four, 4 made the Elite Eight. So we're still running at 50%,
That's
and
right.
1 is guaranteed to be in the national championship game. So before we talk about some analysis and some picks, let's Darren, you've got 5 questions related to NCAA tourney trivia. So what do you got for us?
Well, you know what? Since you said we're guaranteed an SEC team in the championship game, let's start there. And Ben, I'll ask you these questions, and if you know the answer, feel free. When is the last time we had an SEC team in or win the national championship?
For some reason, Darren, the old song "My Old Kentucky Home" is playing in my head.
Well done. Well done. That is correct. It was Kentucky in 2012. Interesting side note, Kentucky not only is the last SEC national championship, but they're also the last team from the SEC to make it to the championship game, which was 2 years later in 2014. So they are the last real ascent up to the national championship, which it's hard to believe. It's been 10 years since we've had a team in the championship game, much less win the national championship, which is 13 years ago now. That's I would not have guessed that. I kind of hung up on my words there. It caught me so off guard, but I would not have guessed that. All right. So,
That really flies, Darren, because
yeah,
my first guess would have been the Billy Donovan Florida teams. But you got to
which
go back even further for
has to
this one.
say you're getting close to 20 years on that one.
Wow. Goodness
That's
gracious.
painful.
So 2012 was the one championship that Calipari won at Kentucky.
Correct. And then he made it back to the championship game 2 years later, but they didn't. They did not win that game. They lost to. Give me a second. UConn. They lost to UConn in that game. That was UConn's national championship that year. So we'll continue on the theme of last time SEC teams X. Well, when is the last time the SEC made it to the Final Four? Thankfully, this has been a little bit better than championships. The last school in the SEC to make it to the Final Four was last year, Alabama in 2024. Prior to that, it had been 5 years. Auburn made it in 2019, and then South Carolina in 2017. So not as much of a dry spell for the SEC as championship games. We've had a little bit better representation, but at least we've had more teams, so a little bit better. Now,
I mean, Nate Oates last year, Final Four, this year, Elite Eight. I know it was disappointing the way the season ended, losing to Duke by 20. But what an incredible run Nate Oates is having at Alabama.
Yeah, Absolutely, and the same for Bruce Pearl at Tennessee. This is one of those years didn't exist. The tournament didn't exist in 20, but outside of that, he's been to two Final Fours in the last five tournaments, basically.
Wow.
That's a nice run at Auburn. um, so this year, one of the big stories is having four number one seeds in the Final Four. The four number ones are the Final Four. Has that ever happened before? That's the next question. What do you think? Is this have we ever had the four number one seeds be the Final Four teams before?
Yes, but it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's only happened, interestingly, it's only happened one other time.
Oh, wow.
And that was a while ago. It was in 2008. Now, for those listening and watching, let me give you a water cooler nugget that you can throw out when everybody's standing around talking about the Final Four and people go, really? Because that's kind of what it did to me. In 2008, when the number one seeds for the first time ever were the Final Four teams, the Final Four in the championship game were also in San Antonio.
Oh.
So the only two times that the number one seeds have been the Final Four teams, those games all took place in San Antonio. That's a
water cooler trivia.
See, you throw that out and people are going, really? That's gonna see. People are gonna be glad.
That's like a Jeopardy question.
Exactly. When I read that, I was just like, wow, yeah, we got to throw that out.
Oh, I like that.
All right. So, among the four coaches that are in the Final Four, how many of them have a previous national championship?
Let's see. You got
the coaches, not the schools, the coaches.
At Houston,
mm-hmm.
John Schreier at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
You have Todd Golden at Florida, and you have Bruce Pearl at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, I don't know if any of them have won a national title.
That is correct. In addition to being able to say this is one of only two times that we've had the number one seeds be the Final Four teams, we also can say we'll get to watch somebody win their first national championship as a coach. So that's a pretty cool thing to have for this year's Final Four. None of these guys have won a national championship, and I'll go ahead and throw kind of to the next question and answer it a little bit. For both Houston and Auburn, this would be their first national championship as a school if they won it.
Wow!
So this is a big opportunity for Houston and Auburn.
That is really hard to believe, Darren, because Houston with Guy Lewis and the Phi Slam Jamma teams,
absolutely,
they never were able to win one, were they?
When you think Houston basketball, you think Phi Slamma Jamma, and the assumption is, oh, that had to be a national championship team, right? But they had Final Fours and or national championships appearances in 82, 83, and 84, but were never able to clinch the championship.
Wow.
So interesting. Now, among Florida and Duke, which school has the most national championships?
Oh, you got to go with Duke on that.
Yeah. Duke has 5, and Florida has the 2 that we've already talked about, back-to-back, 06, 07. Truly, as a Vanderbilt fan, I was not a fan of those teams, but they were an incredible college basketball team those 2 years. There were so many unbelievable players that Billy Donovan not only put together but coached incredibly. Those teams were fantastic.
Yeah, he had them rolling.
Oh yeah.
You think back to, I know we don't cover the ACC, but those 5 championships at Duke, those were all with Krzyzewski, right?
Yes.
I mean, you had one of the all-time greats coaching there for decades.
Yeah.
So, wow.
And that shows how hard it is to win a national championship, because he truly is one of the greatest to ever coach, was there for decades, and has 5. I mean, that shows just how hard it is.
That's impressive. Is that second all time to John Wooden?
Yes, I believe that's right. Because the North Carolina coach, he's close, but he's down below that.
Dean Smith.
Yes.
And I
Did
thought he
he?
won.
I thought he won 2.
Oh, did he? Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Okay. I just
But
remember
yeah.
my thoughts of Dean Smith were, thank goodness they finally installed the shot clock. Nobody wants to watch the four corners.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Staring at a pot waiting for the water to boil.
Yeah. The old school paint dry. That's exactly what that felt like.
You put me in a game like that, and I'm like Morgan Wallen leaving SNL. Get me back to God's country.
He got off the stage quicker than Hurley did after his ball game loss, didn't he?
Those were great questions, Darren. Great job. I like those. Yeah.
And so we just wanted to throw out some things that people might enjoy, fun facts you should know. How's that?
Mm-hmm. That was good. I like that.
All right. So let's get to the good stuff that everybody really wants to talk about. And I don't know that we want to talk about that.
A wise person told me that you should make multiple brackets because you're going to make one bracket based on your heart, and you need to step back after you make that bracket and make a more accurate bracket. And I picked with my heart going with the SEC, and Alabama lost by 20 to Duke. Tennessee lost by 19 to Houston. I normally, Darren, and you can verify this based upon past years. I usually get on that Houston train, and I'm going with
absolutely.
Houston. And the one year I pick against them, here they go to the Final Four, deservedly so, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Duke's just playing lights out. I didn't expect them to beat Alabama by 20.
No.
But
I honestly, I mean, you can see both of us picked Alabama. I thought it would be a close game, but I honestly thought that Alabama would beat Duke, and it would be one of those conversations like, well, there were some free throws at the end, blah blah blah, but the game was never. You knew, no doubt, Alabama was going to win. I didn't think they'd kill them. I didn't think Alabama would beat Duke by 20, much less Duke beat Alabama by 20. But I felt like it would be a game you felt that Alabama had in hand the whole time. So it was really surprising to see it go that way.
I was sitting there watching the game, and the thought that kept coming to my mind was the LSU men's team would match up so well with Duke. I think they could pull this off.
Hey, who knows, right?
My wife said, "Did you take the double dose of your medicine again like you're not supposed to?"
What have you done?
Whoops. Let's talk a little bit about the games, though. Auburn, Michigan State was a close game. Michigan State really they cut into the Auburn Tigers lead. Johnny Broome, a gruesome injury. You saw his his leg buckled and his elbow.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah,
Darren, did you think at that moment he's done?
No, and didn't he basically say that when he was walking by one of the other players on the bench? He was like, "I'm done."
Yeah,
I mean, you basically, he took out half of his joints on one side of his body in one fall. Who goes in the locker room and blows back out like, "I got this. Just I'm good." After that kind of an injury, it was pretty incredible.
It was the game changer when he came back out. Evidently, they did X-rays. X-rays were negative, so he came back out, and basically he played with one arm. But he got some rebounds. He hit a huge three-point shot. Really gave some momentum to Auburn, and I think was the reason they were able to hold off Michigan State and pull off that victory.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's and that was a good Michigan State team. They had to earn that win, and they did it. They did exactly what they needed to do.
Michigan State under Tom Izzo, when they get this far in the tournament, they are hard to beat.
hard to get by.
and they gave
Absolutely.
Auburn everything they had. But Broome, that's a legendary moment that we're going to be talking about for
Oh,
years.
absolutely. That'll be one of those moments that it's like, you remember that year just came blowing out. I mean, the fact that he came out of the locker room and just went straight to the scores table, like, yeah, going back in, it's time for us to close this thing out. It's like, all right. You know how to make a legendary moment. Good for you, man.
So much about that I love. I just what
Oh,
incredibly great.
absolutely.
So this Auburn Florida matchup is going to be quite the game to watch.
Yep.
Uh, they're pretty evenly matched. I think Florida. Someone asked me today, who do you got, Florida or Auburn in this one? And I think I picked Florida on my bracket to win, but they're both
Mhm.
playing so well. I thought Florida's been tested. They've played incredibly. They've been strong in this tournament. The Texas Tech comeback was a huge. Their confidence has to be off the charts
Absolutely.
after pulling
Absolutely.
off the victory against Connecticut and then coming back
Mhm.
against Texas Tech the way that they did. However, Auburn's got this confidence too, and
Yeah.
there's a soaring after this big win, and Broome coming back into the game. So, Darren, when you look at these two schools, and we can talk about statistics and how even they are, who are you leaning toward?
I tell you, in my bracket, I picked Florida, and I think I'm going to have to stick with that. I feel like to pick against Auburn is so scary, if for no other reason than Janai Broome. I mean, I know that they've got more players than that, but that dude can literally control a game. He can do everything you need him to do to control a game. But when you look at this Florida team, and by the way, I'm so sad that I can't remember his name. It's been in my head all day, and now that it's time to say it, it's gone. But the video of the 7'9" guy for Florida walking up and reaching to the top of the ladder and taking the scissors out and just reaching out and cutting down the net. He didn't even have to get on the ladder. That is such a fantastic video. But anyway, the height of Florida, what their front court can do to you, combined with what their backcourt, how their backcourt can control the flow of the game, how their backcourt can get hot. And it really doesn't matter if you cover them. They almost want you to cover them and make the shot difficult because it's more fun when they make it. You know,
Mhm.
you take all of that and put it together for Florida. It really seems like this is their game to take. So I'm going to go with Florida, but I think it's going to be an incredible game. And either way, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I picked Florida, but it wouldn't surprise me. How about you? Who do you think pulls this one out?
I hate to pick against Auburn as well. Florida, though, I'm going to stick with Florida like you. I
Yeah,
think I really like I like the way they're playing. I like
yeah.
their yeah. I'm going with the Gators.
I really think this is going to be a legendary game. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, and I think on one hand, Florida that comeback against Texas Tech, it's almost
Mhm.
like the magical season when you have moments like that.
Absolutely.
Then
Yeah.
I look at Auburn and Broome coming back in the game like he did, and I thought that's pretty daggum magical too.
Feels magical season. Yeah.
So yeah, how about let's look at a little bit at Duke Houston, even though they're out of our conference. Duke is the number one offensive team in the country.
Mhm.
Houston's the number one defensive team. How fortunate are we to get this matchup in the Final
Yeah.
Four? Uh,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I, what can you say about these teams? We've talked about how much we love Houston's style. Kelvin Sampson,
Mhm.
terrific coach. Schreier,
Yep.
though, has anybody followed in the steps of a legend as well as he
Yeah.
has?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and to do it, to not just do it, but do it at the pace he has. Yeah. It's been, you're talking about saying, no, 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 I'm good. We're good. We got this. We're good. Because because there's in sports when it comes to head coaches, there's nothing worse than being the guy after the guy.
Oh,
You know, we just watched it at Alabama to be the guy that follows Nick Saban.
mm,
You know, to in North Carolina to be the guy that follows Dean Smith. You know, there's so many things like that. It's the worst position in the world to be in when it comes to coaching. And
yeah.
he's just like, nah, we're good, we got it.
I mean, Indiana's still looking for Bobby Knight's replacement.
Yeah, that's exactly a
And,
great point.
they've gone to such low levels to poach the West Virginia coach. So, and how about poaching coaches? What's the deal with Willard at Maryland? My goodness,
Oh
evidently,
yeah,
Jay Billis had a piece on this. Evidently, he's in the tournament and he's negotiating with Villanova to become their coach.
finalizing the deal.
We would be incensed if players were doing this.
Yeah.
Why do coaches get a pass?
Any coach that complains about a player in the transfer portal should go read that story and just be quiet.
Yeah.
Because as long as coaches are doing things like that, you better leave players alone because they're only playing within the system that's set up for them.
Absolutely, and that's Jay Billis's point, and he's masterfully communicating that, and it's important.
Absolutely.
The coaches portal is always open.
Absolutely.
Well, who do you like in the Duke Houston game?
Defense wins championships. And I know Duke is incredible, but I was watching that Houston Tennessee game, and I don't know that this is a term I've ever used to describe the way a basketball team plays, but this Houston team plays heavy. It's just like they sit down on you, and even if you have moments where you feel like you're getting your breath a little bit, you're really not. It's like they've kind of leaned over a little bit to let you get a little breath, and then they just get right back down on top and just sit right back down on top of you. They just play heavy. It slows down the pace of the game. It slows down the other team even more than they want to be slowed down. And you hear coaches talk about, I don't want to see my players. I don't want to see the team get sped up. We need to play within our game. I don't even think this Duke team and what they do offensively can speed this Houston team up. They are going to do their thing and do it well. I know Duke is the number 1 overall seed, but I think this Kelvin Sampson team does what they need to do to take care of this game. What about you?
2 coaches that know their X's and O's.
Yep.
We're going to watch a chess match.
Absolutely.
My heart's going with Houston. I like what Duke's done this year. I like this Houston ball club. I like how Kelvin Sampson, the players he brings on, I like how they set aside their egos for the good of the team. This is going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna lean toward. I'm gonna get back on that Houston train, and hopefully that.
There you go.
That doesn't work against them. They may, if they lose, they may say, "Please don't ever."
Yeah,
because I'm sure a lot of the folks in the Houston athletic program listen to our show every.
That's right, and they're having active conversations right now as they're listening, talking about what steps they can take to ban you from the Houston train. If you,
I will say this, Kelvin Sampson. I'm going with him. If I need an out of bounds play to score a basket to win a game, I'm going with Kelvin Sampson.
All day, every day. That's exactly right. So we both have Florida, Houston in the national championship.
Looks that way.
Who wins it? What do you think?
Wow. Since the team I picked to win the national championships is already out of it, so my bracket is kind of.
Yeah.
If Houston makes it, I'm going to go with Houston winning their first ever national title.
So last week, no one should ever pick a non-SEC team, and this week,
well, Houston had, yeah. So you called me out on it, man. Goodness gracious, I feel like I'm in a gospel meeting. And I'm on the front row, and the preacher's looking right at me. So,
You feel like you sang during communion, right?
Darren, you really know how to throw that guilt out.
See,
We need to add
I
that
might
to
have
the
some.
list. You
I might
might
have some training. Yeah.
you might have grown up Church of Christ if you can dispense guilt effortlessly.
That's what I said. I may have had some training.
No, I think Houston's bigs, they match up
Yeah,
against Florida's bigs. Their guards
absolutely.
match up against Florida's guards.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I think I'm going to go with the Cougars. How about you?
Well, I do. My national championship game was Houston, Florida. I do still have that intact, and I went with Florida in my bracket, and it's a scary pick, but I'm going to stick with it because it was my bracket pick. Seeing this Houston team play the way they did against Tennessee made me question why you would ever think they're ever going to lose any game, which, by the way, they've only lost 3 the entire season. 2 of
Mhm.
those went to overtime, and they've only trailed in a game by double digits once the entire season. So this is a team that doesn't lose. So that terrifies me, but I picked Florida. I'm going to stick with Florida. Again, just like we talked about with these 2 semifinal games, I think it's going to be an incredibly fun game to watch. But I'm going to go with Florida, even though Houston being the national champion wouldn't catch me off guard. I'm going with Florida.
I like it. I like it. It's going to be a great game, whoever's in it.
Absolutely.
And watch, we just
Absolutely.
picked Florida over Houston. Watch, it's going to be Auburn against Duke.
Auburn Duke. Well, let's go ahead and hedge our bets on that one. I pick Auburn. How about you? I think that's a safe bet.
If that happens, that there's another reason. This is why Paul Feinbaum never pays attention to us.
That's right.
Who are these guys in Bossier Parish, Louisiana? What games are they watching?
Come on. I know he's from Alabama, but he's from outside of Louisiana. He would call it Bossier County. Come on.
Right.
He would.
Oh, no. Say it ain't so. No.
He would call it Bossier
for a year or
County.
two, wasn't he? Years ago?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think that's right. I think you may be right on that.
I think he knows they're parishes, not counties.
Probably.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, we appreciate you watching. Enjoy the remaining games. Just give you an update on the Texas TCU women's game. It's the fourth quarter, about 4 minutes left. It's a 12-point game. Texas is up 53-41.
Wow.
We're continuing to watch that, and so we'll see if we get another SEC team in the women's Final Four or not. But enjoy the game.
Hopefully so.
Now, Darren, next week we have a scheduling change, right?
Yes, correct. Because the championship game is on Monday, and is tradition. Because it's a championship game, they put it on the night when people watch the least amount of TV and at the latest time possible. So the game will be Monday night at 11:19 or something. No. So we will record on Tuesday and release on Wednesday.
Great. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, y'all take care.
Have a great week.
Thank you for making the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast your go-to sports show. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show if you haven't already. Your feedback is so important. Let us know what you think about this week's show. Send an email to brewandshavers@gmail.com or a text to our text line 318-390-3599. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for listening to the Brew and Shavers Sports Podcast. See you next week.